Hey, what's up everybody and welcome to Aesthetic Imaging Video Tutorials. Last week I showed you how to make this firefly scene using expressions and shape layers and a still image and whatnot. And this week it's going to be the same exact thing. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I really liked how the demo clip that I made turned out, so I figured why not show you how to make that fake camera movement that I used. And before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that the files, including this whole After Effects file, will be included. You'll be able to download it and use it to follow along. I'm going to give you the two assets that are included, the Fireflies video clip and just some pictures of the wood that I took earlier today. Link in the description, and let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our fireflies and our woods pick, and we're going to select both of them. We're going to drag this down into this composition here. And we want to do a single composition, and we want to use dimensions from the fireflies. Alright, so that's good. Set it to fireflies, 10 seconds. The Fireflies video clip is 10 seconds long, so that's perfect. And we want to make sure that sequence layers is turned off. Now we're going to hit OK. Alright, so now we have our two layers here. First thing we're going to do is go over to toggle switches and modes if you don't see our blending modes up here. And we're going to turn the fireflies, we're going to set that to add. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a new null object. So we're going to select both of our assets here, and we're going to pick whip it to the null. Now, if we move this guy around, both those layers are going to move with it. Here, let's open this up right now. And under transform, reset, just bring that back to the center. Let's start off by hitting S for the scale. And we'll scale it out a bit. Take this woods pick, hit S, scale it down a little bit. Alright, so let's set this to fit to 100. Alright, so our null, we're going to rename that to camera movement. There we go. And that's going to automatically update down here. As you can see, camera movement. Alright, so now what we're going to do here is we're going to hit P, and we're going to hit Shift A and Shift R. This will bring up the anchor point, the position, and the rotation. All right, so let's start off with the anchor point. We're going to add some expressions. We're going to do a wiggle. You know this one. We've already done it. All right, so for our camera movement, this is kind of a zen. I'm doing air quotes that you can't see, by the way. We want a more zen feel to it, you know. So what we don't want to do is do like really high numbers like 7 and maybe 30. Let's see what this looks like. We're in an earthquake. Like obviously that's not zen. All right, so we want to do smaller numbers like 0.5, and we're going to set this to 10. Now we have kind of a subtle movement. It's going to be a little less subtle when we do the position. All right, so let's click on the stopwatch for the position, type in wiggle, and we'll do like 0.4, comma, like 15. All right. So now we have the anchor point and the position. So now we're going to do the rotation, and the rotation we want really small numbers. It's the rotation it's very easy to go a little crazy with it. So comma, we'll do 1, try 1, see what happens. All right, so that's even a little too much there. So let's go to like 0.5. All right, if we play that back, maybe we can bump this up a little bit more, maybe like 0.6. Maybe change this 15 to 10 as well. There we go. We just want something that looks kind of handheld. All right, so I'm going to move this down in the comps here. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some zooms. So let's go about 3 seconds in here. Let's hit S on the keyboard with our camera movement selected to bring up the scale. Let's create a keyframe there. Maybe go into a little bit less than 4 seconds in. And let's just bring this in. Just like that. Maybe bring that to 4 seconds actually. All right, so if you play this back, our little zoom, it doesn't feel that organic. So what we can do is take this first keyframe, maybe move in a couple frames here, 4 frames, and let's check out what the number was before. All right, so at this keyframe it's 88. So what we want to do before it starts zooming in is we want to kind of have it zoom out just a little bit. So it's at 88. It was at 88, so let's put it to like 80. Like not much, you know, just a little, that might even be too much. Do like 84. There we go. And then here we are at 120. So let's go back a few frames. And we're going to do an overshoot about maybe 127. See what that looks like. All right. So now what we want to do is take our keyframes and we're going to easy ease them by hitting F9. Or you can right click, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease. And let's work on timing a little bit. All right, so we're going to hold down the Alt or Option key, and we're just going to click on that last keyframe and drag it out a little bit. Maybe move this over. All right, so this keyframe is kind of between frames here. So what we can do is click on it, hold down Shift, and just boop it over to the timeline right, or playhead right there. Now it's on a keyframe, or on an actual frame. Same with this guy. Click, Shift, boop it over. All right, so I want to maybe have this come in a little bit more. Maybe 139. And this one can be 130. You can go into the graph editor. You can edit these little guys right here. Make sure it's set to value graph. And we can actually select these keyframes and click on this, and that'll fill it to the view so we have a little more idea of what's going on. We can just take our little handles, move them over. There we go. Get out of our graph editor here. And let's go to 7.5 frames here, or 7.5 seconds. I'm going to make another keyframe. And this we're just going to do a little zoom out. Quick zoom out. So scale is down. Maybe zoom it out all the way. All right, so we have that. Now let's add some depth of field. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go to Effects and Presets, and we're going to type in Camera Lens Blur. Didn't mean for it to already be up there, but I already did a run through and I forgot to hit that. But Camera Lens Blur, it's under Blur and Sharpen. So let's add that to our Woods pick. Set this to something like 4 for now. And real quickly, we're just going to set this shape to triangle. Whoops, don't want to do that. This is just it's going to run a little bit faster. We actually are going to set this to something higher. Anyway, yes, we are at 4 for our blur. So now what we're going to do is open up our keyframes for our null object by hitting U. And we're going to go to where it kind of starts this zoom here, but a little bit after, because this is going to be set to autofocus. And that's how, like, if you were in real life trying to film some fireflies, autofocus would be your best friend, he said sarcastically. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to select our woods pick here, and we're going to click on the stopwatch for the blur radius, maybe about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 frames in. All right, so let's hit U so we can bring up that keyframe right there. And let's go to a few frames after the movement. And let's blur this to about 16. How about that? A real-life camera lens, as you zoom in, the depth of field appears to be stronger. So if you had a 24 millimeter lens set to, like, I don't know, 4.0 and zoomed out all the way to 24 and then zoomed it all the way to maybe 105, if you have a lens like that, the background would appear to be more blurred than when it was actually zoomed out. So that's what we're going for here. So as we're zooming in, we're increasing the blur of the background. All right, so we can come over to here, a few frames after this movement, and create a new keyframe. Come over to here to after the movement, and we're going to set this to 2. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually copy this camera lens blur, Command C, and we're going to paste it onto our fireflies. Let's go to this keyframe right here and hit paste. Now we can hit U, and we can see that our keyframe's already there. All right, so for our fireflies, when we first zoom in, we want to maybe set this to, like, I don't know, 5. So they're maybe 7. So they're just a little blurry. Now we want to add some, and also here, we're going to set this to 0. The first keyframe is 0, and it kind of comes in. It's a little blurry. Actually, you know what? With this keyframe, we're going to set it to 2. So that way our fireflies are out of focus, but our background is not. And we're going to come ahead a few frames, like 3. And we're going to bump up the blur radius to something pretty high, like 30 maybe. And then for the fireflies, we're going to bump up the blur as well, something kind of high. And then we're going to go over a few more frames, and we're going to set this to the fireflies, we're going to set to 0. And the woods pick, we're going to maybe turn that down to 15. So what we're doing is, as we zoom in, we're kind of focused on the background. And then what it's going to do is the autofocus is going to try to focus on these fireflies. So what we're having it do is actually go past them a little bit and then snap to the focus of the fireflies. Now let's look at their timing here. All right, so we can maybe drag these out by hitting Alt and dragging out these 2 last keyframes. And then we can also do the little easy ease, F9 to easy ease. And then we can go over to these keyframes here. And this is going to be set to 0 for the fireflies. And then we're going to go over to this last keyframe, and it's going to be set to 0 still. So we can actually just get rid of that keyframe. Boop, gone. We don't need it. All right, maybe bring these out even a little bit further. All right, so let's take a look at that. Yeah, it's not too bad. Zoom out. Boom. There we go. All right, another thing we can do is go down to toggle switches and modes till we get to this. We can select all of our layers and we can hit on this little button here, and that is our motion blur. So that way, as it zooms, we also add some motion blur in there. And we can go up to composition settings, and over here in advanced, we can set the shutter angle. 180 is fine, negative 90 is fine. There we go. Yes. So here you can definitely see why it's called triangle for the shape. What this is doing is camera lenses usually have blades for the aperture. The more blades you have, the more rounded your bokeh or blurriness is going to look. All right, so for instance, we are set to triangle. Let's set this to octagon. And do the same for the woods. Set this to octagon. All right, so another thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have repeat edge pixels checked on for both of our layers. All right, so if we play this back, see what we got here. All right, so there you have it, our firefly scene all set up. And if you want to learn more about doing maybe camera movements and stuff like that to 2D images, I also have a few tutorials on parallaxing that I think are pretty cool. Maybe just go check them out. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.